Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to AD&D Second Edition read-through of the Player's Handbook. And today we are going to talk about different kinds of vision and light and what that does to your player character's situation, whether it be an encounter, whether it be surveying the scene, whether information gathering. We're going to talk all about that, bonuses, minuses, all that stuff. Let's get to it. All right. Before a character can do anything in the dungeon or the wilderness, he has to be able to see what he's doing. If a character can't see a target, his chances of hitting it are very small. If he can't see, he can't read a scroll or a large keep out sign on the wall. In the AD&D game, characters can see set distances and often by fantastic means that defy logic. Limits of vision. The first limitation on vision is how far away an object can be before it cannot be seen clearly. Size and weather have a great effect on this. Mountains can be seen from great distances, 60 to 100 miles or more, yet virtually no detail can be seen. On level ground, the horizon is about 5 to 12 miles away, depending on weather, but a character usually cannot see a specific object that far away. The limit of vision for seeing and identifying man-sized object is much less than this. Now, before we get into the numbers, bear in mind this is a game that has to have rules that affect everyone. Well, I can see, I can make out a person at twice that distance. Well, good for you in your eyes. But we have to have a standard in a role-playing game. Everyone has to be reading from the same page.
I can't see Heathen Dog.
There, see? Now he can't see anything. So these are the standards that affect everybody. Under optimum conditions, the maximum range at which a man-sized object can be seen is about 1,500 yards. If it is moving. If the object doesn't move, it usually cannot be seen at this distance. Even if it is moving, all that can be seen is a moving object. A character cannot tell what it is or what it is doing. Now, you may be able to discern if it's a bipedal being walking or running or a bipedal being on a horse or mount. That's about it. That's about as much as you're going to get.
Nah, I know that's Jim. I can see his mole right there.
Yeah. At 1,000 yards, both moving and stationary man-sized object can be spotted. General size and shape can be determined, but exact identifications are impossible. It is not likely that creature type can be identified at this range unless the creature is a very unique shape, like, say, a troll or a storm giant or whatever. Like, that's obviously not a human. That's obviously not a halfling. That's obviously not an elf. That thing is 8 feet tall, 10 feet tall, 20 feet tall. Yeah. But unless that's true, small variations, a couple feet here, a couple feet there, scaly skin, regular skin, you're not going to be able to tell at this distance.
And I'm getting really hyper pedantic now, but there's also reference points. If it is, say, a storm giant, or let's use something more like an ogre, something that's big, if you don't have a reference point, you might think it's a lot closer than it is.
Right. Yeah. If you're in the Utah salt flats and everything is just basic white, flat ground everywhere, distance with no markers is going to be a problem. So bear that in mind too if you're a dungeon master. At 500 yards, general identifications can be made. Size, shape, color, and creature type are all distinguishable. You'll be able to tell if it's a human, you'll be able to tell if it's an elf, you'll be able to tell if it's a halfling, stuff like that. Livery and heraldic symbols or banners, I think I pronounced that wrong, can be seen if large and bold. Like if it is a column of troops that have a large banner of the Lord of the Marshes, you'll be able to see, oh, that's the banner of the Lord of the Marshes. That must be his army. Stuff like that. That's fine. Most coats of arms cannot be distinguished at this distance. General actions can be ascertained with confidence. General actions being which way are they going? Did they spot us because they stopped or turned toward us? Stuff like that.
That's why the banners were big out front.
Yes. So you can see them from far away, so you won't make a mistake. At 100 yards, individuals can be identified, unless, of course, their features are concealed purposefully. Coats of arms are clear. Most actions are easily seen, although small events are unclear. Most actions being they draw their weapons. You'll be able to see that easily. But if they grab their secret, dagger from inside their cloak. You're not going to see that at 100 yards. That's not something you're going to see. Sorry. At 10 yards, all details but the smallest are clear. Emotions and actions are easily seen, including such small actions as pickpocketing if it is detectable or detected by roll. Of course, conditions are seldom perfect. Everything we've done here is under perfect visibility. Perfect visibility. Usually conditions are not so perfect. Table 62 lists the effects of different types of these conditions. Clear sky. This is the perfect conditions we were talking about.
Yep.
1500, 1500, 110. Now, if it's a fog or dense blizzard, that means what can be seen at or cannot seen and not seen at 1500 is now can what be seen and not seen at 10 yards. Anything beyond 10 yards is basically not seen. You can't see it at all. You don't know it's there unless it's making noise. Fog or light snow, 1500 becomes 500. Mist or light rain, 1500 becomes 1000, and so on. Full moon, no moon, twilight, all of this will affect the visibility distance and what can be ascertained at that distance. Movement indicates the maximum distance at which a moving figure can be seen. That's seen at movement. That's right here. We've already talked about that. Type gives the maximum distance at which the general details of a figure can be seen. This is movement. This is things that are moving, things that are not moving, close enough to see what type of thing it is, human, elf, gnome, whatever. Give a general ID of what it is. Oh, that's Bill. And then detail exactly what Bill is doing. Those are your levels. The ranges given in Table 62 do not take terrain into account. All ranges are based on flat, open ground. Hills, mountains, tall grass, and dense wood all drastically reduce the chances of seeing a creature. Thus, even though on a clear day, woods may hide a bear until he's 30 yards away, it's still a clear day for visibility. The bear, once seen, can be quickly and easily identified as a bear. The DM has more information. Okay. So, what it's saying is there is a forest 50 yards in front of you. Beyond the edge of that forest is heavy tree cover. 10 yards into that forest, you can't see anything. You can't make out any detail, any of anything. But once that thing goes into the open, it is now, if it's clear sky, it is now in here. That means he's between 10 and 50. That means it can be ID'd exactly what it is. It is a bear. Some details of the bear can be ascertained. It's a black bear, a white bear, a red bear, a brown bear. It's a bear with a scar. It's a bear with no eye. Oh, I met that guy before. I'm the one who took his eye. He's probably pissed at me. Whatever. Light. Most characters cannot see much without light. Some night conditions, those for the outdoors, are given in Table 62, but all of these assume some small amount of light. In total lightless conditions, normal vision is impossible unless a source of light is carried by the party. Light sources vary in the area they affect. Table 63 gives the radius of light and burning time for most common sources of light. Of course, while a lantern or fire enables characters to see, it does have some disadvantages. The greatest of these is hard to sneak up on somebody if you're carrying a torch or a lantern, because they will see you much further than you can see them. And we're going to get to that when we get to the tables. It's hard to remain inconspicuous when you have the only campfire on the plane, or you're carrying the only torch in the dungeon. Furthermore, not only do creatures know you're coming, they can jump. See, I already said that. Okay, now these are the special vision. Infravision. Some characters and monsters have the power of infravision. This can mean one of two things, depending on whether the standard or optional rule is used. The choice is left to the DM, and he must tell the players how he wants infravision to work. Regardless of how the power functions, the range of infravision is at most 60 feet unless otherwise noted. I usually use infravision as basically heat vision. You see sources of heat. and it's good to 60 feet unless otherwise stated, which means even in complete darkness, as long as there's no intervening barrier between you and the heat source, you can see it and identify it appropriately. Like, that is an orc. That is a human. That is an elf. That is a bugbear. You'll be able to tell. All right. Using mirrors. At times, it is useful for characters to look at objects or creatures via reflections in a mirror, like a Gorgon or a Medusa. You don't want to look at it directly. When using a mirror, a light source must be present. Second, attempting to direct your actions by looking in a mirror is very disorienting. Thus, all actions requiring ability or proficiency check or an attack roll suffer a -2 penalty. The character also loses all dex bonus to armor class if fighting an opponent seen only in a mirror. You can't duck, dodge, weave, jump, and dodge. No, because you have to keep your enemy in the mirror so you can attack it. Okay, light sources. Beacon lantern. This is a lantern that basically shoots out forward in a cone. 240 feet. Light from these is not cast in a radius, but rather in a cone-shaped beam. At its far end, the cone of the light from the beacon lantern is 90 feet wide. A bullseye lantern has a beam of 20 feet wide at its far end. Burning time, 30 hours per pint of fuel. Bonfire, it's a radius of 50 feet. Campfire, 35. Candle, only 5 feet. Continual light spell, 60 feet. Light spells, 20 feet. I thought continual light and light were the same thing.
No, that's actually something that that I've made a mistake on a lot of times as well.
Yeah.
But no, they are different. They even read differently in the descriptions. And
okay, cool.
I forget about it a lot. I only know this because I got in arguments over this stuff. And have to look it up like, oh yeah, that's right. With all the arguments, you'd think I'd remember, but I still forget.
Torch is 15 feet and weapon is 5 feet. Magical weapons shed light if your DM allows this optional rule. This is an optional rule. Not all magical weapons have to shed light when drawn. But some actually state that they must, like sun swords. When drawn, they shine. That's what they do. So yes, that is a vision and light. Okay. How far away you need to be, or how close you need to be to have certain levels of discernment on your target that you're looking at. 1,500 feet, 500 feet, or yards, 1,500 yards, 1,000 yards, 500 yards, 100 yards, and 10 yards. That's in perfect conditions. Now, fog, rain, winds, blowing, sand or salt or whatever in the air will drastically bring these down, but we have a chart for that, which is fine. Terrain, that's more up to the DM. The DM will decide if those trees are packed tightly together enough to block you from sight completely or just hinder someone looking at you. So that's up to the DM, and I'm sure in the DMG there are stuff that will help the DM make that adjudication.
Well, so I'm actually going to reference the DMG for our comment here.
Oh, cool. Okay, go ahead.
So an elf's infravision is like a cat. It's slightly enhanced due to light. There is no difference between dwarven
and elven
or anything like that. Infravision is infravision. However, in the DMG, it does state that there are two types of or two definitions for infravision that can be used in the AD&D game. First is simple but lacks detail. It is, however, perfectly adequate, blah, blah, blah. The second optional definition adds another. So the standard definition, the easiest definition of infravision is that it allows a character to see in the dark. Nothing more is said about how it works. It simply works. Characters do not see into the infrared spectrum or see heat or anything else. They just see in the dark as clearly as they do in normal light. However, since it is somewhat a magical power, the range is not that of normal vision. Infravision ability extends only to 60 feet. Beyond this, only normal vision is allowed. Okay, that's standard. That's a nice, simple, quick, let's just get this done rule.
Yep.
Optional rule, I am not reading this whole thing, but I will start with I think the first two paragraphs. This definition is much more scientific and accurate to what we know of physical properties of the real world. To To its advantage, this definition makes Infravision very different from normal sight with its own strengths and weaknesses. To its disadvantage, it introduces a certain amount of scientific accuracy. Blah, 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 blah. According to this definition, infravision is the ability to sense or see heat. Best comparison is thermal imaging, as you were talking about. This special sense is limited to 60 foot. Within its range, characters can see degrees of heat radiated from object as glowing blobs translated into colors of the thermogram. Several things that must be considered. Large heat sources will temporarily blind characters. I'm not going to get into everything here. Also, you can't see complete details either. So the reason why I brought that up is because I actually use the Earth Dawn method. Dwarves get infravision or heat sight, and elves get low light vision or cat light. But as the book goes, there is no distinction between any race.
They're all the same. Yeah, they're all the same. And the rules as written is that it's magic. It's just as good as normal sight up to 60 feet.
Up to 60
That's
feet,
it.
yeah.
That's it.
That's the standard rule, yeah.
Now the optional rule is the one I use, which is they actually see heat. So light is meaningless. It doesn't even come into play. There could be no light. There could be lots of light. Doesn't matter. So it's up to the DM to define what infravision is. If you want to hand wave it and just have it be, then by all means, use the regular sight up to 60 feet because it's magic. Even in total darkness, doesn't matter. It's magic. Shut up.
Yeah, and again, it's just they call it infravision because I think you were right. I think in previous editions they had the different types and
yeah, they had infravision and
ultravision and whatever else.
Yeah, they had all.
They just made it one.
Yeah, they just made it one thing.
And to be clear, I didn't read the Earth Dawn method. I just read the Dungeons and Dragons method, and that's just for clarification for folks out there. It's all in one. You can either do the simpler, the more complex version. He does the more complex. Just remember, if you do the more complex one, there are also disadvantages. Like you can be blinded by bright light, and you lose some definition because
you can be blinded by bright heat, not light, because you're seeing heat.
Yeah. I think it actually said light in there.
Okay, well, I wouldn't have that happen at all because that's just stupid. But a fireball blowing up in front of you, even if it doesn't, even if you're not in the radius, it's still going to blind you.
Yeah, I think it was talking about these light sources you have on the screen, if I remember correctly, like a bonfire would.
Oh, right, yeah. A torch is probably fine, but a large bonfire will obscure anything behind it if you're just seeing heat. So yes, be careful with that.
The reason I do elves and dwarves differently is because I like to think of them as different species because they are. Also, elves are natural outside.
Sure.
Whatever they're going to
where there is going to be some form of light, even on a moonless, night, there's still going to be stars or whatever. But underground, there's possibly no light at all, and that's where dwarves live. So they would be better to see heat. I get it.
And there's a benefit to each one. You can get detail out of low light, but you have to have some light.
Yes.
You don't get as much detail out of heat sight, but guess what you see? Everything with heat.
Yeah. So that's great. So I want to thank everyone for staying till the end. Really appreciate it. And you can like, subscribe, and share this video with others if you think that they are going to get something out of it, which I think they will. And next week we are going to go over time and movement. That's right. How much time it takes you to get to movement from one place to another. Because travel is part of the game.
Yes.
Travel is movement. That takes time. So this is going to be an important chapter for whenever you don't want to hand wave wilderness travel, which you shouldn't, because that's where all of the random adventures are.
Are you going to break that chapter into multiple parts?
I might, because it's kind of big.
It is kind of big. And also, other than going over spells, kind of the last thing in the book.
I know. Great, right? I thought we were going to take it to the end of the year.
That is actually perfect timing because the week after we have Kevin and Sean here, or Kevin and Jeremy here. So yeah, that's if you can complete the book next week, awesome. If not, well, then we'll do one more. But with that, please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see everybody next time.